What's up, fam? Welcome to Watch Your Work. If you couldn't tell, behind me, we upgraded the Funko and the comic book set since the last time we joined you. Kelsey's feeling under the weather tonight, so you're going to have me. Good news is, though, you're going to have a bunch of guests, so you don't have to just hear me talk and say and have sentences drag on for long periods of time to excruciating lengths. Let's see who we got joining us tonight. ATCJ, welcome. Cass came in early to just drop some LOL. I assume that's like at our expense, but whatever you do to boost content helps us out. So thank you to folks who show up, whether or not you're haters. Y'all, I am so excited about this show tonight. The news for the WNBA over the last, 2 or 3 weeks has been relatively slow. I mean, there's been coaching changes that have happened. Nothing that's humongous. We had some rule changes come down. We, thank God, are in the process of getting rid of the take foul that is just ruining games, in my opinion. And other stuff is happening, but what we really want to see in the sports content world is really irrational talk about things that are going to happen in 6 months that we can just pick apart endlessly for however long we want to. And to join me in that endeavor is Matt Cohen from Winsidr. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Matt, you are joining us because you put together, I'm going to say it because I read a whole bunch of them over the weekend, the most comprehensive, really dug in 2023 mock draft just out there. And, I want to talk with you about it. And somehow, despite all of my sort of veiled threats that I was really going to come at you with some hot takes or some Stephen A. Smith kind of stuff, you still agreed to come on. And I'm so appreciative of this. So Matt, talk to me about your piece, because there's one thing I want to point out on here that I saw nowhere else. And we can scroll through just a little bit and see what it is. Spoiler alert, Aaliyah Boston is that number one. But oh my gosh, we have accolades. We have so much homework. You took notes, you showed your work on this. So tell me what this process was like writing.
Yeah, it was labor intensive for sure. I spent a lot of hours looking at a lot of different college players, looking at who some people thought was going to go in the first round, and just looking at a lot of different potential options for different seniors and who was going to be eligible to come out of out of college and into the draft. And so I spent time looking at videos, and I went through various stats. Shout out to ESPN and her Hoop Stats, who really helped me out in that process. Mm-hmm. And then obviously all the team websites to help me pull a bunch of those stats, because if I was looking into two different players for who might go where and how they might fit, I was like, okay, well, let me take a look at what are some of the different accolades, what have they really been able to do, and how has their game grown since they've been in college. And so thank you for saying so. I did spend a lot of time working on it. So I'm glad that you feel that it's really comprehensive, because I put a lot of work into it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think anyone who have read more than 3 of them that are out there, we're going to say, if we copy and pasted this and put it in a Word doc, it would meet the word requirement for any class.
Absolutely.
This is great. So you and everyone under the sun are going with Aaliyah Boston, going to the Fever, getting paired with Nalissa Smith, Queen Egbo, making potentially the front court of the century in the WNBA. The question I wanted to ask is, everyone is going this direction. Is Aaliyah Boston inevitable? Is she so good that no one else is going to catch up? What is it about Aaliyah that makes her that way, or is there anyone else that you can feel encroached on that at all?
It's It's a great question, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that there was definitely some chatter on Twitter over the weekend when Indiana won the lottery and got the right to pick number one overall. For people to ask, is Aaliyah Boston really the assumed pick? Is it already 1-1? It's Aaliyah, and there's nobody else there. And is she really going to be as good as everyone thinks that she's going to be? And I saw it, I thought about it, and in looking at some of the different potential options, and then obviously some others had some mock drafts out there. So of course I was taking a look, and it would be really hard for me to see Indiana going in any other direction. Aaliyah Boston really is that good. I mean, a lot of the credit goes to Don Staley, the head coach in South Carolina, for putting together a system that really allows her players to shine, especially Aaliyah Boston. But Aaliyah Boston doesn't need, a system to be designed for her. She's just that good. She's an incredible rebounder. She's an incredible defender. She can score at nearly all three levels. She's really improved on her three-point shot since the last year, and is really looking into that regard. And I mean, look, you can see all of her accolades right there on the screen. She is really that good. And
the 3-time Lisa Leslie Center of the Year. I didn't know that before I read it, and oh my goodness, that's an incredible achievement. Wow.
Yeah. She's really that impressive, and I don't know how many people out there have gotten a chance to watch any of the South Carolina games, but if you're going to watch some college basketball this year, you have to look out for Aaliyah Boston. And if I'm Indiana and I'm Lynn Dunn and I'm thinking about, okay, what are my options here? Aaliyah Boston is as much of a home run pick as you can make, and she really is going to transform that team. And you were saying pairing her with Melissa Smith and pairing her with Queen Egbo, and that front court is really going to be dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Now, is there a dangerous or is there a danger of like duplicating too much? Does the WNBA game is a little bit different than maybe other basketball that we see kind of around the world, and that it isn't quite as spread out. It's certainly spreading out, sort of like shot selection and things like that a lot more. But good centers in the league still remain pretty dominant. Does Indiana run a risk of clogging up the lane too much, putting too much focus on the front court and not enough on who's going to be getting them the ball or anything like that? Do you think about that at all, or do you just go so much with this is a generational talent, it has to be on our roster?
It's a good question, and I think if you look at people who are legitimately asking, should Indiana really go with Aaliyah Boston, I think that's really the thought process is, do you want to overload the front court and then not be as concerned about what happens in the back court to help facilitate that offense? And it's a good question, and I think it's one that could be asked. But I think if I'm Indiana, if you look at the roster construction that you have, you really do still need somebody like Aaliyah Boston who can help anchor that side of the floor, and to have what could be an embarrassment of riches. You have Emily Enxler there, you've got Melissa Smith, Egbo, and then Aaliyah Boston. You've got pieces that you can rotate in, and you've got some depth. And yes, it is a little bit more of that old school, NBA approach, but I think I think it's for them, it's something that can work. They also have the 7th pick in the draft that can allow them to go get a combo guard or someone to help facilitate the offense a little bit. I know Destiny Henderson kind of got a little bit of a run with that last year, Coach Carlos Knox really liked to have Daniel Robinson kind of running the show, but there's potential for them to be able to get other kinds of players who can help facilitate. There's also free agency potentially. So could they go number one with someone who can help facilitate the offense? Yes. Do I think it's likely? No. I still think you just can't pass up on someone like Aaliyah Boston.
Right. And you have Indiana taking the Maddie Williams from Oklahoma with that 7th pick, who honestly for a forward is pretty good at facilitating in offense, has pretty good court vision and everything like that. But as we've seen in any draft, things can shake out all sorts of directions, and they may get a playmaker that falls into their lap or anything like that. I'm still of the idea that, what you said to take Boston, but if I'm Indiana, I'm also thinking of like, this is a team that's only going to be looking forward, and we can ship Kelsey Mitchell somewhere and get a playmaking guard to really build around that team. So that's absolutely it. So yeah, thanks for going through all of that. Now, can I ask you my critique question, my like really dig in? Because we're in a same Slack channel. I've seen some of the responses to this draft, and Matt, you took some heat for your number 2 pick. Are you ready to talk about it? Is it sore, or can we dig in on it?
No, let's go.
Let's
I
go.
knew what I was doing, so that's and I'm ready for the heat. I'm ready for that smoke. Let's go.
All right, with the number 2 pick in 2023 draft, the Minnesota Lynx fill their void at center left by Hall of Famer Sylvia Fowles with Elizabeth Kitley from Virginia Tech. That leaves what a lot of people have listed as the number 2 pick, who's Haley Jones, who you have going 3rd to Atlanta. We can talk about that in a little bit. That leaves her kind of out of that 1-2 picture. And I think you're one of the only ones I've really seen who put someone else besides Haley Jones in that number 2 spot. Do you want to, I mean, I can let you defend your spot, but I want to sort of like tell you where I'm coming from on this to put you on the spot. I watch Elizabeth Kitley and I think of Alyssa Cunane from North Carolina State last year, who I thought was great, kind of drafted in the mid-first round, got to the league and did nothing. Bounced around a couple teams, just couldn't find a spot on the floor. And when I watch Elizabeth Kitley, who is a very skilled center, a good passer, a good mid-range shot, kind of emerging 3-point shot, I see a lot of those similar skill sets. What is it about Elizabeth Kitley that she can step into such humongous Hall of Famer shoes and really step into maybe a potential franchise player role in Minnesota?
So Kevin, I think that's a really fair comparison. When you made it in our Slack chat, I was like, oh yeah, that actually kind of makes a lot of sense. And honestly, I have to say last year I was a little bit surprised that Cunane sort of struggled to really find a role within the league. I know that her game might be a little bit more of that old school way, and maybe that's not what every team wants to have. And so I was a little bit surprised. But the more tape I watch on Elizabeth Kitley, the more polish I think I see in her game, and I really like the way that she's able to play big and able to really be a presence on the floor. I mean, I'll be honest. When I first was putting this together, and I didn't know what the lottery order was, I did struggle a little bit with knowing where Haley Jones was going to fall. I did have her initially at the 1-2, but the more that I thought about it, Haley Jones is an incredible player. She is an incredible leader, and she can do a lot of really good things. The one thing I don't think she does really well is score a ton, and maybe that's just the way that Stanford's system is designed for her. But I looked at where Minnesota's biggest needs were, and I looked and I thought, Jones, and I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota goes with Haley Jones. But right now, given what I'm seeing and given the structure, and again, like I'm probably going to revise these, as the season goes on. But I really liked what Elizabeth Kitley's game brings, and I liked her ability to fill a really important void in filling in for Sylvia Fowles now that she's retired. And I saw that as the biggest need, knowing that Minnesota also needs a point guard and needs some scoring and whatnot. That I felt that Kitley fit that role better right now than what I saw from Haley Jones.
Matt, you survived the smoke. Like, you did it.
I mean, bring it on. I'm ready for it. I know what I'm doing.
I couldn't dig in that hard on it because you're right. I think Minnesota probably needs a larger swing than something in maybe a safety net that maybe Haley Jones has, that really, really high floor but maybe limited ceiling due to maybe some of what we saw with her scoring, especially when it kind of got exposed in the Final Four a little bit. So like totally get that. I think myself, maybe some others were surprised to sort of see that number 2 pick, but I think you made it under sort of the right mind space of this. And I would love to see a center with that kind of skill set succeed in the league. Alyssa Cunane, I'm still rooting for you like out of this, because that those centers who can shoot, who can play make, who can play in that mid-range game, that's just fun to see on any basketball court. Huge fan of that. Now we get to number 3 on here, and your sort of takeaway with Haley Jones falling all the way to number 3 is that it was going to be the best thing for her in terms of fit with Atlanta. Do you want to? You wrote about it well in the piece. Do you maybe want to explain that a little bit here? How is the fit for Haley Jones in Atlanta better than what it could have been in Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, and I think you look at name recognition, and I think a lot of people are like, how is it possible that Haley Jones is going to fall in this draft? It's down further down the lottery. And again, I think if Minnesota takes her at the 2, it's not going to surprise me. And I think, and it isn't to say that I don't think that she would be a good fit. I just don't think she's the best fit. And again, that's right now. We'll see how the season progresses and where Haley Jones's game is going to develop. But at the 3, I looked at the current makeup of Atlanta, and I looked at it and I said, okay, so they obviously are going to need some more scoring. And they're certainly going to need someone to help facilitate a little bit more of the offense. Now, Haley Jones has some turnover issues, which isn't going to help Atlanta, who has some of those issues. But Haley Jones can be a good floor general. She knows how to pick apart defenses. She knows how to help orchestrate, and she knows how to help players succeed in different spots on the floor, depending on the matchups that she sees. And if you watch any of Stanford's games, her and Cameron Brink really work really well together, sort of that inside-out game. And so Haley Jones is a really good facilitator in that role. Is she the prototypical point guard? Not necessarily, but she might be a little bit of that in that combo guard role that Atlanta might really need for some interchangeability in Tanisha Wright's offense. And so looking at what she's able to bring to an Atlanta team that can really use some help in the assist department, who can really use a combo guard who can help bring some life into that offense, to help maybe take some of the pressure off of Ryan Howard, to have to facilitate that for herself, to let Ryan Howard play a little bit more off the ball, I think is something that I think Haley Jones can really help with in that regard. And so looking at the next available pick for Atlanta to take, I thought Haley Jones was going to be a wise choice.
Totally get it. And I agree. And unfortunately, you're already taking smoke from more people than just me, because Love Me or Let Me Leave, which what a screen name. Not going to be a good fit in Atlanta. They need more scoring. That's a true story. They also kind of need a point guard who they can rely on pretty well. And as good as Ari McDonald, as good as Christy Wallace even can be, or like when Erica Wheeler was out handling offense, it still wasn't a floor general. It still wasn't someone who was, I think, setting up Ryan Howard to be maybe the best version of herself that she could be, or someone to set up or move around the arc when Ryan Howard was cooking either in a high post or somewhere around there. So, I totally get where you're coming from on that one as well. And Matt, I'm going to spare everyone from going like line by line on here, because you need clicks. You need people to come through and actually read this article. I'm going to actually post it in the chat here as we're speaking. Boom, there it is. Go read it. Matt, I want you to talk about the rest of this draft, picks 4 through 12. Who among that group of players, because a lot of people are talking about this as sort of like a 1-2 draft in that's it, where we have the big names, Aaliyah Boston and Haley Jones, who have a lot of that name recognition. Outside of that, like, who are those players that you're really excited to see in the W? Maybe like 1 or 2 in the 4 through 12 kind of range.
Sure. So one that I wasn't initially super high on just yet, because she was injured for a little bit, but I think is going to have a really big season, is Diamond Miller in Maryland.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are really high on her. And what I've seen so far from her in the first few games for Maryland, she's been really impressive. I know that she was hurt a little bit and didn't play in one of those games, but from what I'm hearing out of Maryland and from the work that I've seen her, she's really a player that I think is on the rise, and someone that I think is really going to come into her own fully and really help develop her game this year. I mean, I have her at 6. That's probably a little bit low. I mean, a lot of people are putting her at the 3, that she's the 3rd best player in this draft, which is entirely possible that maybe that's where Atlanta goes and gets Diamond Miller. And it's something that I'm definitely going to keep my eye on as the season goes through, to see what she's able to do. The other player that I really like is Maddie Segrist, who is just an absolute bucket.
Yes.
An absolute bucket.
Oh my gosh.
I love her game. I love the way that she plays. She's aggressive. She loves to attack. She's just a really, really good shooter. I have her
It's
currently,
clutch.
yeah, I have her currently right now in that 8th spot for Atlanta
Mm-hmm.
to get some of that scoring that they really could use. But she's also a really good rebounder.
Yep.
And really knows how to attack the glass and finish her shot and things like that. Things that I think Atlanta could really use in that forward wing spot for themselves. So those two, I'm really intrigued to see how their seasons come through this year and see where their draft stock may go.
Yeah, oh man, Maddie Segrist. Not someone I knew a ton about last year, started like watching a little bit this year, then dug into like YouTube clips. And how could you not be a fan? Like, this is like some mix of like Caitlin Clark plus someone who can like defend and rebound, and just her in the W, I think would just be fantastic to see. I had 2 quick questions about other players, and then I can send you on your way. I know you are living a full life and have to get up in the morning.
Sure.
One player I'm also like excited about, and I think is just super gutsy, is Deasia Fair, who plays now for Syracuse, had played for I think Buffalo in the past, and she is someone. How tall is she? She's 5'5", something like that, and she, against guards in the MAC, was just like bodying them up in the lane and like taking like no prisoners whenever she like drove to the basket. How do you think that this, like, obviously you do because she's in the draft, but like how do you think like her size and everything, like, can it hold up to like a Power 5 kind of game? Can it hold up to a WNBA kind of game? Like, what do you see out of a player like her?
I love Deasia Fair's game.
Yes.
I love it. I mean, it's one of those players who I first heard the name and was like, oh man, I never heard of this player. I need to do some more research on her. And then I'm looking at those numbers. I'm like, oh, but it's a mid-major. Is this real? And I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, her game is that good. And for her to go to Syracuse and be playing in a big conference, it's going to be really awesome to watch her play this year. And to me, I think she's probably the best pure point guard to come out of this draft. I mean, it's early still, obviously, but I mean, there's a lot of good choices for others who could be there. Zaya Cook and Celeste Taylor. There's a lot of good other point guards, but I love her game. She can score, rebound, assist. She does so many things that Seattle, I have her at the 9 right now, that Seattle really needs. Again, filling another major hole after Sue Bird now retires from her illustrious career. I think a lot of other people are starting to really pay attention to Fair and what she's able to do. And she is as well. The other day, someone on Twitter had posted a video or some stat of hers, and I'm like, I have her in my top 10, and she liked the tweet. And I was like, okay,
yes,
he's paying attention. He's paying attention. So, I mean, she's looking forward to a big year, it seems, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her game go. Yeah, she's small, and I think a lot of times we caution around these really small point guards who are going to get beat up and pushed around, but. I mean, you can see in the picture there, Fair is willing to drive to the basket and finish hard at the rim, and she will, and she's good at it. And I think in a good system like Seattle, where Noelle Quinn is going to know how to move her around and get her to help facilitate, but also find opportunities for her to score, I think her game is going to translate really well.
Yeah, you don't see 5'5" guards go to the rim and like take contact and like look for contact. And she's one of those folks that does it. Like I'm glad your hype for her is matching my hype for her. I feel validated in that. And my last question is complete Midwest bias, because this is a person I watch on like ESPN Plus a lot, running the treadmill and everything. And I'm a fan. I like watching the game. I have questions though. And I'm talking about, went too far. I'm talking about Ashley Jones, who you have going at number 4 to the Mystics. Big wing, shoots well on the outside, rebounds well. But when I watch Ashley Jones, it's hard for me to get past what her shot looks like. And is that something that becomes a burden at all when she gets to the W? Does it something that like the team in Washington, if they draft her, has to change? Or do you feel like she can step in and still be productive in the WNBA despite kind of a goofy looking shot?
Yeah, I think Ashley Jones is probably the toughest one to pin down right now, because her game is so good. But yes, her shot is a little bit more unorthodox, and I think there's a lot of people out there who are hesitant about where to put her. I was talking with Rachel Galligan about it, and she was also like, "I'm not sure yet. I don't know where I want to put her yet." She was still trying to figure it out as well, and so I really like her game for Washington. I like the holes that she's able to fill. A wing player can score. She's going to shoot the three, something that Washington really needs more of. And I also think that if anyone's going to be able to change her shot, I really like the coaching staff in Washington to be able to make it happen, even with new head coach Eric Thibault taking over and Mike sort of letting that part go as that was announced earlier that he's going to kick it up to just the GM role. I still like the coaching staff they've had there. I've covered that team. I've talked to the coaching staff. They're really keen on, finding those little pieces and helping really tweak that. Shelly Patterson is someone who's really good at stuff like that. So if Washington is able to get someone like Jones, and they really want to have someone like Jones, if they think her shot is not going to translate well to the W, I can see Washington really being able to make that adjustment. I really do like her game. I like what she's able to bring for this Washington team, like I said, and I hope they get her from just a personal bias standpoint of watching the team and covering it. I'd love to watch her play in Washington, but if anyone's going to be able to make that change, I really like Washington's coaching staff to really make it happen.
That's awesome. Yeah, and what a potential steal that Washington could get, a year after getting Shakira Austin and being able to trade some other picks to get someone like Jones kind of a year later with a lottery pick. When you already have, one of the best players to ever play the game on your team and a great cast around him. Matt, I have taken all but like a minute of the time that I promised you so far. What is it that you want to plug, that you want folks to get eyes on, or anything like that? Like, where can we find you?
So Winsidr is what I'm writing for, and I love working for Winsidr. So please make sure, thank you to Kevin for putting the link to my article in the chat. So please, if you haven't taken a look at it yet, read it, look at all of our great stuff on Winsidr, and you can find me on Twitter at MCCohen5. So feel free to hit me up and roast my takes or offer your own thinking, and I'm here for all of it.
Excellent. Well, Matt, I appreciate so much you being able to take the time. I'm glad that we finally get to chat in human form and not just on like playback or Slack or Twitter or anything like that, or as close as human form as we can get living across the country. Thank you so much for the time. It was so good to have you on. I look forward to trying to course you back sometime closer to the draft and the W season.
Absolutely. Would love to come back. Thanks so much, Kevin, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll see you later. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye. All right. How great was that? I just love any opportunity to get to dork out about basketball things with really smart people. And Matt is one of those great folks to do that with. He's always down for the good chat, the good conversation, and just sharing great work on Winsidr. In the show notes, we did offer another surprise, so we're not just done with you yet. There was also some other cool stuff happening around the draft and the draft lottery on the Top Shot side and in the Top Shot community side. And I am so hyped to have on another guest making their third appearance on our show, I think. Yes, third appearance on the show. Jen, welcome back.
Hello. It's good to see you too.
How are things going for you?
Oh man, crazy. But we're here. We're excited. I mean, I was just watching, I know it's men's, but double overtime, Michigan State taking down Kentucky. So we're we're in the thick of things of college basketball, and it's amazing. So, I mean, I'm excited. It's been you're talking about all the amazing players, the women's side, and you've already had, what was it, last night? UConn took down Texas. Indiana upset Tennessee.
Yes.
I mean, so there's some, and if you're looking for basketball over football Thanksgiving weekend, there's 2 major tournaments coming up. There's the Phil Knight here in Portland that I will be at, and the Battle for Atlantis. So if you're looking for actual basketball over Thanksgiving week instead of football, you got your fair pick.
Get to the remote early. Make sure it's locked in on the Night Classic and those games that are happening. Oh man, thank you for bringing up Indiana's win over Tennessee. I feel like I owe the University of Indiana such an apology. I thought like last year in this whole like rise that they've had, that they've just been like, it was all smoke and mirrors. Like I thought that they were just like completely overrated, and I was like so skeptical and needed to see them win a game like that. And man, against Tennessee, like what a good one.
Well, I think, you're talking about earlier about Ashley Jones. Like, I think there is a big Midwest revival with women's basketball, right? I mean, it's with Caitlin Clark in Iowa and
top 25 matchup in the state of Nebraska happening.
I know. I'm not an ESPN, but yes, I did see that big game too. But I mean, Minnesota, I mean, I think for a year, I think it's just picking back up. And so I think recruiting is really helping, that they're keeping the star players more local. I don't want to say like completely local, but more centralized than probably going to either one of the coasts. Absolutely. And I think that's really helping, and that the Big Ten overall is now a very strong conference in women's basketball. It used to be Maryland, maybe Ohio State, but now you got Indiana, and Minnesota's climbing back up, and Iowa obviously.
Has Clark.
So Tennessee's just had 2. I mean, they started, that was their 3rd game, and that was their 2nd top game, and they've got some things to work on. I just, speaking of Ohio State, that's who they hit. Ohio State, just their defense was just smothering, and I think,
oh my gosh, their player had 11 steals on Sunday night. Oh my gosh. 11, one person.
I think Tennessee they just haven't had the fire in them yet. And I can't, they have a strong team. Do I think they're, top 10? Yeah, maybe. But were they ranked a little too high? Number 3 to start the season? Probably. But I think Kelly will have them together. I mean, she's not going to let the Tennessee pride fall. But there was this big article recently about even scheduling those hard games. They're talking about that they just can't do it. And so sometimes you just have to start out the gate against top 25 teams or top 5 teams and see really where you stand and go from there. So I'm not too concerned about Tennessee, but I think just a little bit of lack of effort was a little surprising in both games for them.
What you mentioned just about like what the basketball landscape is for college, I mean, for women's college basketball, especially, we had today, the name is escaping me, but this tremendous player out of high school who just signed with USC.
Juju something. Yeah.
Thank you. Aziz Fudd is crushing it in UConn on the opposite coast. Texas, or, women's basketball is still alive in the state of Texas and in places like Oklahoma. And when it's still alive in places like Tennessee and LSU, and like, it just makes the whole landscape of women's basketball. It's just amazing. I think
they've also kind of talked about it too, but I think the one thing that they have benefited the most over the last few years is the transfer portal. Yep. And I think that has been I mean, you talking about LSU right now, all those transfers that Kim Mulkey just brought down. And, they were talking about, like, speaking of Maryland, like, she had to rebuild her entire team. And she, they were talking to me, she built this schedule thinking she had all these players, and over 80% of her team scoring from last year was gone, not due to graduation, but due to transfer.
Yep.
And so I think it's really, that has changed the landscape of, and the graduate transfers. And so the transfer portal in and of itself, I think women's basketball probably has had the most success from. Yeah. So yeah, it's big, but yeah, I'm excited. All of the Phil Knight games coming up are going to be on ESPN. I've got 7 out of the 8 game tickets. The only reason why I can't do 8 is because they have the 3rd place game of one of the brackets at the same time as the championship game.
Oh, why?
I don't know.
Why?
I don't know. But other than that, I have all the rest of them. So I'll spend my Thanksgiving Day watching 2 games, Friday watching 2 games, and Sunday watching 3.
What great holiday plans. And Jen, I feel like we owe you as a Team Hold community because you also brought your partner Jude over to become a VIP member out in Team Hold. So what you're doing is like with the For the W community, crushing it. You and Jude are my favorite parts of like Top Shot that's happening right now, quite honestly. And I think what you bring to with just enthusiasm and knowledge and honestly just like care for the game and wanting to see a game succeed, I think it's really admirable, and I'm so happy that y'all are in the roles that you are, because you also, for the lottery last weekend with the WNBA collector community Discord, with y'all, you helped put together kind of a contest for the draft lottery. Do you want to explain this a little bit while I bring up?
So we thought it'd be fun, given we saw a lot of people hoping for their team to pull off the number 1 and just wanted to get people excited. Like you said, it's kind of a low point in the W season. We know schedule will come out soon. Free agency starts, I think, January 15th. It's sometime in January. Yep. Free agency begins. So we thought we'd have a little fun and say, predict the order. And so we had, and you had to get all 4 spots correct. So 1 through 4. We had 94 participants and only 4 out of the 94 got the entire one, the Fever, Lynx, Dream, Mystics.
Incredible.
Correct.
Incredible.
So I thought that was great. I mean, it just to spice it up a little bit. So we're kind of back to here's the 4. Which moment are you going to get? Because for the rewards, we have the 4 number 1 picks from last year: Ryan Hurd, Nalissa Smith, Shakira Austin, and Emily Englister up for grabs. So
There we go. So let's do this. Which one are we going for?
So let's go with Emma. Let's count backwards just like they did. So for the number 4 pick, Emily Engster, we have our 4 winners up. We got 76er fan. We got Papa B. We got Crombalus Michael. We got TC Costa. Blah blah blah. But we're just gonna spin it right now, so I don't have to pronounce those names. And with the Inksler, it's going to Lady Costa 24. All right. And let me stop share. There we go. And we'll clean it up. So I'll make sure that I write. Are you writing this down? Am I got it. Yeah, you're good.
Oh my gosh, you're great. Thank you.
I gotta know who to send it to.
There you go. Way to be responsible on this.
Sometimes I try.
We are just flying by the seat of pants most of the time. Okay, so it's going to show 4 when I bring it up. I tested this out before show. I promise as soon as I spin it, it's going to go down to 3. But for this one, we are doing which moment? Shakira Austin. Shakira. Oh, baby, when you spin the wheel like that, you make Crombalus Michael win. There we go.
There you go.
Got that one. Congrats on the moments. We'll kick you out of there for a prize wheel. All right. For number 2, which is
Nalissa
Smith. This is going to be between Poppy Bez and 76ers fan. Let me bring it up. I don't want to do the typical Team Hold thing where we already spin the prize wheel when we don't screen share. Here we go. And whoever doesn't get this one is walking home with the Ryan Howard. So Poppy Bez 88. That means 76ers fan, you're walking home with a Ryan Howard moment. congrats to all those winners. Congrats for just being 4 out of 90 to get lottery odds right. Like, that's pretty
thank
incredible.
you to all the participants. I saw someone post up that they got their orange hoodie. We're trying to keep some momentum going. We're in the process of trying to start thinking about our Christmas giveaway. We've got something really big up our sleeves for just before the season starts. That's IRL. So be on the lookout for those details. I'm excited. I know Jude was really excited when we saw this opportunity that we jumped all over it. And yeah, I mean, I'll be at the Portland stop if you guys are coming out to that, because it's literally right down the road for me. So if you come to Portland, come find me. I'm sure I'll probably be wearing the orange hoodie, most likely.
There we go.
So yeah, June might be trying for Toronto. I know things got a little crazy with all of the tour things, but
that's wild.
Yeah.
And you all, for the W community, we're also doing or had done some burn moments for chances at rares. Like a lot of stuff happening out here. Oh my gosh. How blessed are we? We get us a carrion sighting. Oh my gosh.
What's up,
after
Mike?
10 p.m. on the East Coast. Thank you, Mike. What, like, how is that going? Is that still happening? Has that wrapped up?
Yeah, so I think we just finished. So because of the weird hold rules,
Sure.
so we exchanged. We had a chance to send in 5 best 21 moments for a chance to win 1 of 10 rares. We had 95 people participate. We burned 475 moments of that set. I know Jude also just did some little bit of burning we've got a steady breaks actually. One next Thursday.
That's right.
I can't remember the time for Thursday. I think it's in the morning. I know it's in the morning Pacific. That's all I can remember. So sorry, Jude. He'll have it in the chat. And then we've got one Friday, the 18th at 6 p.m. Pacific. So we were trying to think of different ways to get people to enter the various study breaks. And so we burned a little bit more. So I think we're over like 500 now at this point.
That's incredible.
That we burned. So we're getting there. We'll do some more. We were trying to do a test run one just to see logistically on our side, how does this work? And make sure that we can handle it. And I know a lot of people stay burn, but we also wanted to see really what participation was going to be too, like what would drive the community and things like that. So I am sure we'll have more. There we go. 11 a.m. Pacific Thursday, 6 p.m. Friday on Twitch. We are holding our very first steady break, so come join the fun. For sure. Thank you to them for hosting us.
Yeah. And steady breaks is a blast. Whether you are part of like the pack ripping process or just like watching on Twitch, like I am mesmerized by it. Like it's an incredible show. Yeah.
So we'll be working on that. We're trying to work on a few other things. I know, and it's one of those, some things we had to reset with the Dapper turnover a little bit.
Sure.
So we're working through it, and we're excited for the season. We've got lots of ideas. We'll see what comes out of it. But we're trying to keep it, like you said, the chatter active and talking NBA, WNBA, the team channels, like today with the big Mystics announcements of the coaching. And I wish Mike Tebow the best, man. One of the best to do it. So it's going to be exciting to actually watch Eric take over.
It's going to be so strange. Coach T is such a fixture. I mean, the senior Coach T is such a fixture on the sidelines that it's going to be so strange to see.
But he's such a spitting image of his father. You're not going to know what's happening. Literally, he looks exactly like him.
It's going to be like some just. But
I will say this: I actually saw kind of completely different. A lot of the women are now coming out with sneakers. So if you sneakerheads, be on the lookout for those. Satu Sabli's got one dropping Thursday, I think. Elena Deladon's got 3 different versions now of the Air Deladons. Stewie has I don't even know now how many colors of the Stewie one. Sabrina came out with a shoe. I'm also looking at what I've also not currently owned. Nafisa Collier's got 2 player editions. Jewel Lloyd's got a couple player editions. So if you still rock the W players, in the off season if you can't. So look out for all that stuff happening. and we're trying, at least on our Twitter, keep up with them all overseas. So I know FIBA, the Euro Women's League is going, the WNBL, which is the Australian League, is going. So we're trying to keep up with all the players overseas too, if you're trying to find out where they're playing. And Athletics Unlimited starts in February. Natasha Cloud is back to lead that charge. So there will be a lot of senior stars play over the winter. And yeah, you got to keep up with the NCAA to look out for those draft picks.
It's a year-round process, and honestly, thank God for it. Like, it's so great to just have that game to look forward to, kind of just like all year. Like the NCAA women's games have been great. The men's games have been great. John Morant is just like single-handedly giving us a great
I gotta
NBA
say, I mean,
season.
I know a lot of Portland's out tonight, but Portland's exceeding expectations. The Trailblazers
seriously so much
right now.
Right, it's incredible. It's what a great time to be just an enjoyer of basketball at all levels. So this is great. Jen, before you go, can I hit you with some random WNBA questions?
I will do my best.
Okay, so you are the GM of the Indiana Fever. Who are you going with your number one pick?
You know, listening to Lynn Dunn and her momentum, and I think especially with the new head coach, you can't forget now having the new head coach. And one of the biggest things they've talked about is defense. And I think that's really where Boston will come alive. Now, I completely agree. They don't really have that forerunner, but I think I think about the size. Yes, they've got a lot of front court, but they don't have the height of the front court of a lot of other teams. And I think yes, you got to kind of load the paint for defense purposes. And I think that's really where it's going to serve them better to kind of have a lot more of those bigs. So, and I know Lynn develops players very well. She is somebody that believes in all of that. So I would not be surprised at all if she goes with Aaliyah for that purpose. I think, Aaliyah's done a lot of work with USA basketball, so she's got a lot of that international experience. And so that also brings a little bit of that toughness that probably some of those other bigs down low may not have had. So I think I have a feeling Indiana's taking Aaliyah.
Okay. Love the pick. Kurt Miller to the Sparks. Does he get the Sparks into the playoffs in year one?
Barely. I think it takes him another year. And the reason why I say that is because I think I talked about this on one of the other times I was on with you. He's got to get the locker room first. Yeah. Before he gets the on-court. And knowing that there's so much free agency with that team right now of who's coming back, I think it's going to take him a little bit of a he needs to change that culture in that locker room. And I don't know if he's going to get it right away. And that's why I said barely, because excuse me, if he has the Agumake sisters, I think he can sneak in. They'll lead the charge as long as Shanae is healthy. But I don't see going past 7 next year in terms of playoffs. Because they didn't have they traded away their draft pick. So, it's a little bit harder. But I really think he can get the locker room a little bit more in shape, but it may take him a little bit to get there.
Completely reasonable take. When you see news today, like I think it was today that
the Kennedy Carter thing. Yeah, I'm a little confused on exactly what was happening with that, because it was like, oh, she parted ways with Angel McCautry, but I think it's something to do with something an agency Angel works with represents Kennedy, but there was still some sort of mentorship between Angel and Kennedy, and so I'm not quite sure what that means. I know Kennedy's having some troubles, and I hope she finds the right person, because she is an amazing player, and she just needs to find that mentorship and how to handle herself a little bit.
Right. And I think she had, in interactions that I've just seen with her and other folks, and I know that there's a lot that maybe people have documented against her, but I think there's a pretty awesome person in there. And I think the right kind of structure around that really will help her come out of whatever she's going through. Last question. Last question plus an additional question after that.
Okay.
Prioritization comes into effect in the WNBA next spring. That is the basically rule in the CBA that says the WNBA is requiring people to be back from overseas commitments by a particular date in training camp. Right. If you miss that, you are subject to fines, suspensions, yada yada. By the prioritization date in 2023, will Breanna Stewart be there for a WNBA team? Will be in the WNBA.
I don't see. Part of me is already like, I don't know. And the reason why is because she's still not even playing.
Yeah.
And even overseas, I think she just got there. Stalking her Instagram. She was watching, she posted today, she was watching Ezzy play. So I don't know. And I think the good and the bad of it going to 40 games next year, but the problem still is until you've got a better CBA that gives more money, I don't think she's the only one, right? Because I know Emma Mieseman has been very vocal against this prioritization, especially for those true international players.
Gabby Williams too.
Yeah. So I feel like in a way, it's going to have to be a collective effort, not just one player making a stance, because we've already kind of seen that, like during the Olympic year, speaking of Emma not going to the bubble. I mean, that was a little bit different. But like Amanda Zawi B, she didn't come back. She didn't even try to I mean, she's not as a big of a name, right? But she purposely did not try to get back in the W when she was cut. She stayed overseas. I think you're going to have more of a collective group say, we're taking prioritization over the W for things to really change.
Yeah.
And one player may do it, one player may not do it. I don't know, but I have a feeling to get what they want, there might be more of a collective strike, we'll call it, not an official strike, but that
it's kind of a standoff between all of that. Yeah.
So I don't know. Like, it's hard because, like I said, she's not even playing right now. So I don't know if she's resting in what she's doing. But I understand completely their concerns and wish it would change. So we'll see. We'll see.
Okay, so let's look at the rosiest picture possible. And Breanna Stewart succeeds overseas and is back in time to play in the WNBA in 2023. Whose jersey is she wearing day one in game?
Well, you're asking the Homer this question, so
I know it's a painful Homer question. You're never going to come on the show again. I already apologize.
No, I do say Seattle with this reason. Because of the way Sue and the Seattle itself embraced Sue, they have embraced Stewie, and I feel that she has, in a way, yes, I know she talks about her home is New York, but that's literally the same thing as Sue, right? And I know everyone says that, but there's a difference in making your mark in that city, and wanting to see you succeed, right? And if we really think about women's basketball, and if you really believe in it, the next closest pro team is LA. And do you just kind of leave Seattle in the dust to forget about it, or do you keep bringing fans to there? I mean, Climate Pledge Arena had some of the highest attendance this year. Yeah, it probably was a lot to do with Sue, but they've had year in, year out top fans. And so I think building in that succession, and I think she appreciates and respects Noelle Quinn. I don't know, you got to look at coaches too. I don't know if she'd want to play for Sandy, and I don't know if she'd kind of leave that situation, but I think there's a lot of roots that she's already put down in Seattle that she's hesitant to leave. And I give her kudos to making sure and double, like, just like any employee, you should always make sure that you're getting the best salary at your current job, and
right.
Do a check every once in a while. And so I mean, yes, I do believe it. Do I think she goes to New York? Stewie wants her rings. You have to keep that in mind too. So she's gonna, I mean, you saw that in that very last game against the Aces that she put up 40 plus points.
Right.
I mean, she wants her ring. So I don't see her going to New York unless she feels that they will actually win one within the next couple of years, right? She's not a player that's going to go to a rebuild. She's going to go to win. So where can she go to win? And that's the biggest question. So if she leaves, it's going to be to win. It's not going to be to rebuild, which is why I don't think it's New York if she leaves, as much as people want it to be. I could see her going to Minnesota, maybe. I could see her.
That's interesting.
Maybe Taurasi pulls her down to Phoenix. Yeah. I don't see her going to Vegas. I don't think. I mean, she with Asia and her inside, I don't see that happening. But Stewie's big, like I said, her, she even has selling her T-shirt, her own brand with her behind. If you've never seen it, she was selling a shirt for the longest time where she was putting up her hair and all of her fingers had all of her rings from her various championships. She wants rings. She's not shy about that. So that's why I don't see her going to a rebuild. She's gonna go to win. So if she stays rebuild, she's gonna stay where she's comfortable, and that's why it would be Seattle. I don't see her leaving to rebuild. Does that make sense?
Makes complete sense. And I'm sorry to put you in that headspace to like talk about Stewie leaving. But
I mean, I'm just as worried about the draft about how are we going to replace Sue, right? Like, I don't want to worry about replacing Stewie. Like, we need a point guard bad.
Well, I mean, everyone is talking about Vandersloot like ending up in Seattle. We'll see if that actually happens.
I feel like she's the same way like Sue. She's not going to leave for just a year. I mean, I know Breanne January did it, but Breanne bounced around, right? She was never home. She was never that icon. I mean, yeah, you can talk about the Fever when she won the championship. She played at Connecticut, but she was never that icon with that team. Sloot is an icon with Chicago, and I don't see her being one of those players just to go home to retire. Like, especially when she's married to someone whose home is Chicago. I think she has embraced Chicago, right?
Right.
So I don't see her leaving Chicago either.
I can't wait to see all of this unfold the moment like January hits and free agency stuff hits the fan. Jen, I asked for like 5 minutes. You gave like 30 in like great conversations and energy, and so appreciate you always coming on, and just appreciate you and June and what you do for the Top Shot community, and just like the energy and love you have for basketball, because it's great, and we're so lucky to just get a chance to talk about it and enjoy it. So
well, thank you for having me. Thank you for collaborating with us on this giveaway. I know we were all trying to come up with something, so we might as well do it together. So appreciate that.
For last minute shamble sort of like production, it turned out pretty great. Like, that's okay. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Worked out
thank
good.
You all. We'll be in Discord. We've got, for those that didn't know, we did officially change our name. So it's for the WNBA on Twitter. You can find us at For the W, our Top Shot name, and just come find us on Discord.
All right. Well, thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Have a good one. We'll see you again soon, probably. Bye. All right. That's our show. Kelsey, if you were going to watch this at all, feel better. And everyone else, enjoy your evening. I can't wait to log off and see what Nebraska is doing to Creighton at this point. And we'll be back in a couple weeks to talk all the updates of things happening in the W. And peace out. We're gone.